looked in the shop and there's skeletons and objet art.
What can I say? I'm not happy about it because I find it quite disrespectful.
I don't like it at all. I mean, it's like a graveyard to me. It's just full of dead animals. I can't see why anybody would find it attractive.
I was a very talented student. I won a lot of competitions and I passed my A-levels with distinction, and I indeed won a scholarship to the New York School of Visual Art. So I knew that I was artistic, and I knew I was either going to become an actress or an artist from a very, very young age. But then my family, my parents got divorced and everything fell to pieces. And I decided to move to Brighton, and I joined a band first of all, and then I joined a cabaret group, and I started touring Europe, wearing silly outfits and getting up on stage every day. I was just walking through the streets of Frankfurt one day, and I was asked by a woman if I would consider doing any modelling, and I just lied to her and I said that I was a makeup artist, and she booked me right there and then, and I became a makeup artist. One of my clients, who was right at the top of the charts, she said to me, "God, where do you get your clothes from? They're always so good, they're always so cool and so trendy and so unusual." And I said, "I make them myself." And she said, "Right, that's it. I'm taking you to my record producer and you're going to do the styling for my next video." And that's how I started making clothes. And then personal life took over and I got married and it all went terribly wrong. And anyway, cut a long story short, I came back to England in 2005 with a small child. And I had to start again, basically. I decided to do the redesign show, the rubbish show, again in Brighton. I called it the Trashin' Show, and that was 2010. And then just after the Trashin' Show, I met John, my now business partner. And after the Trashin' Show, I was playing around with ideas, and I had the idea for the Roadkill couture. And John had always wanted to open up a shop, and I was working from my flat, and it was all very cramped with a child and working at home. So he suggested we take on an old shop.
Jess does all the fashion stuff, but I go around collecting a lot of the bodies, and that Jessie uses. She'll use all the feathers and the fur, and then I'll process the bodies and build skeletons. So basically recycle everything, but Jessie is the one that does all the fashion side.
So I donated the idea Roadkill Couture to the shop, to the Eaton Not project, and that's how this whole thing developed.
Brighton Animal Action was started up some years ago now, probably about 10-12 years ago, and it was generally as an animal rights group in Brighton and to raise money for animal causes and to highlight animal abuse. But over the years, as members have moved away and it's not been quite as active. I'm a vegan, so I don't even wear leather, and fur most definitely is a no-no for me. I don't like the conditions the animals are kept in. I don't like the way they're killed, and I just personally find it unethical to use other living beings for their skins.
When I was about 21, working in London, somebody gave me a leaflet and it was about vivisection, and I couldn't believe what I was reading, and it really shocked me. Yeah, that was it. I joined a local group and became active in protesting and leafleting mainly people, the public, to the realities of vivisection. Vivisection is experimenting on live animals. It could be cutting them, burning them, chopping limbs off, any manner of thing that you can think they do to an animal.
First of all, I told Liz about the new show. She knew that I was good for my word because I'd given her the Trash and Show, and Trash and Show was very successful for Liz. So she knew who I was and she knew that I was a professional. So she didn't worry about that, but when she put it out there, there was an awful lot of fuss, and 2 people in her office walked out, refused to have anything to do with it. And I just don't think they understood the concept that I was using recycled products, animal products. And people don't like anything new, they don't like to have to use their brains to actually reconsider things. So it took a while. There was an awful fiasco on Facebook when she first put it out on the Brighton Fashion Week website, on the Facebook page. And she actually asked me to intervene because people were saying things like, that fucking Eaton bitch, she should be skinned alive, like thinking that I was doing what, the abominations abroad do to animals. And she asked me to intervene, so I did, and I started conversing with all these people who were really, they were being absolutely hideous. And eventually, every single one of them started liking all my comments, and the conversation just fizzled out.
We used to have a couple of fur shops in Brighton, I remember back in the 60s, 50s and 60s, and we no longer have them, and that's great. We have a few that do fur trim, and now you're saying this woman has started up this Roadkill shop. That's the only way they can sell or try and sell fur in Brighton. Vintage fur, when we know very well that half of it isn't vintage.
Even if it's vintage, there is still horror attached to that, and it doesn't go away with time in the same way that people who died in Auschwitz, it's not lessened, the gravity of it is not lessened because the horrible situation occurred 50 years ago. Still not acceptable to wear fur, even if it's vintage.
This is a bird that I actually bought from a hunter. He was selling them to the butcher. And these guys get sold to the butcher, and the butcher skins them and gets them ready to be sold as meat. And I've just intercepted it, really.
Hang on a minute, we're going into different territory here. One minute it's roadkill that's been killed accidentally, and then the next minute we're justifying animals that have been killed deliberately. There is a big difference.
So basically I'm using as much of the animal as possible to make his death less pointless and to honour him, really. Very simple process to remove the meat.
Well, she's part of the process then, isn't she?
So there's one of the breasts. And my son's rather partial to pheasant. So I think we'll have this for dinner later.
Since there are so many things for us to eat on this planet that don't involve killing, I personally find it really distasteful that people still think that they should actually not kill, but get others to kill for them, because most people could never think of slashing a lamb's throat. The only people I have respect for are people who live in very harsh environments and need to personally hunt and kill for their survival.
Put that in with our flesh-eating bugs and that'll keep them happy for a while. I won't take much of the meat off this because they're quite hungry at the moment, the bugs. Now John has started macerating things, which means leaving them in tepid water and letting them rot.
Alright.
Yeah, so it looks like we're blooming breeding Ebola or something.
A dead body is left to rot. Yes, actually, it's going to happen to all of us, isn't it? We're going to be dead one day, and we're going to be either left to rot or burned. So why does she feel that we have that benefit of respect and ceremony when we go, but there's never any respect and ceremony for other creatures?
That's a so strange thing, isn't it? Rats because they're disgusting, or we perceive them as disgusting, and to turn them into couture is something that's quite delicious. I like that. I like to have a contradiction in my work. And cats because it's the opposite, because actually we as humans put a value on animals. As I say, rats are disgusting and cats are gorgeous, and we have them in our households as members of the family. But actually, they're all animals. They're just animals, just like cows are, and you feel perfectly comfortable wearing cow skin. So that's another point of my roadkill couture, is that sort of levelling it out. If you're willing to kill that, or if you're willing to wear that, then why not that? Surely everything is valuable. It's a couple of weeks later and the wings that I prepared last time are now dried. Last time I removed all the flesh and washed them, dried them and pinned them out. Now I have a wing that's outspread and all the cartilage in the joints, all the soft bits have now gone hard. I can't bend that now, it's stiff. So it'll retain that shape now forever. Well, I started Roadkill Couture as a conceptual art piece, not as a fashion project. Although I've always expressed myself through fashion, just because that's what makes me tick. Being able to express yourself through the way you look. But this is much, much deeper. This is to do with the way we treat our animals, the way society has become a throwaway society, the way we're desensitised to death now. You know, when I was a little girl, you went to the butcher shop and all the animals were hanging up. The pigs, and you'd have half a cow and stuff. But people don't want to see it anymore. We've become, what's the word, cowardly, and we don't like to see reality anymore. So now there's no faces on meat anymore, it's just little pink squares in supermarkets, and you're not confronted with that animal at all. It has no recognition, it has no relationship to what that animal was, or how its life was, or how it died. And I just think it's ghastly the way we've just become so alien to everything that's real. So these are first scraps. I never throw anything away. We never pay anybody for the donations. They must be donated because we don't want to actually encourage people to go out and kill things. We say that it's all ethically sourced, and it really is. I have very little to do with fashion. You know, my stuff's more to do with style. It's for people who don't really follow fashion, who want to look individual. Right, okay, so I think that's pretty secure. Let me have a quick look. Yeah, that feels good. Right, there we have it. Very simple, very elegant, clean, nicely finished. 2 weeks ago it was a present that I took home and we had for our evening meal. I've got the bones, the skull, all those pieces also kept, and a lovely hat that I will now put on a mannequin and sell in the shop.
I'm sure that it's probably part of our culture that we don't use all the parts of the animal, whereas in some cultures the head wouldn't be slung out, it would probably be used entirely.
In India, cows, which are our main dish, or roast beef at the weekend, fantastic, but in India they're holy and they wander around. Nobody would ever touch one. But then dogs and cats that you have in your family home here, they're eaten in places like China, you know. And so it's all relative, everything's relative, it depends where you're grown up. Just across the channel they eat horses, you know, English people get up in arms about that. But surely all animals are animals and they all are valuable. So I just want to shake it up a bit and make people see that. I mean, I was a vegetarian for 20 years, so I've lived on both sides of the fence. I'm back on the other side now. But I value every animal that laid its life down for me, and I want to use every part of it as much as possible, like the Eskimos do, or like the Native Americans do. You know, they're sort of people, original peoples. They valued the universe and the earth and everything that came from it, and I think that we've just become so removed from that. I just think it's dangerous and it's awful, and that's part of what Roadkill Couture is about.